next concept we are going to see is Coulomb's law. Let us consider two charges Q1 and Q2 separated by distance of r. Say I am keeping these two charges in vacuum, and these two charges are going to be different in their magnitudes. It can be either both positive or one positive and one negative, which means like charges or unlike charges. There is going to be some forces exerted in between these charges, which we call them as electrostatic force. And Coulomb is a scientist who have given and derived a formula for this kind of experience of forces. So the statement of Coulomb's law is nothing but the force of attraction or repulsion between two point charges is directly proportional to the product of the charges and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. So mathematical representation of Coulomb's law is given by F is proportional to Q1 Q2 by R square. So you can easily relate this equation with this statement. See, the force of attraction or repulsion between these 2 point charges is directly proportional to the product of the charges and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. This is nothing but the statement of Coulomb's law. Since there is a proportionality here, we have to introduce a constant to make it equal. So F is given as K Q1 Q2 by R square, where this K is called as force constant. And the value of K is given as 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, in which epsilon naught is nothing but permittivity of free space. And the value of epsilon naught is going to be a constant, which is given as 8.854 into 10 to the power of minus 12. In order to know what is the unit of epsilon naught, I can make use of this Coulomb's law equation. So if I substitute F is equal to, instead of K, 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 by R square. So if I want to know what is epsilon naught's unit, I can simply make use of this equation. Epsilon naught, the permittivity of free space, which is nothing but the quantity to which the unit has to be found out. So epsilon naught can be kept on the left hand side. See, other variables can be moved to the right hand side. So 4 pi is going to be dimensionless, so it doesn't have any unit, so we can neglect it. So epsilon naught can be written as Q1 Q2 by F R square, where the unit of charge is given as Coulomb. So C into C divided by, then force has the unit Newton and the displacement always has meter, so meter square now. So the unit of epsilon naught is given as C square n inverse m power minus 2. So the unit is going to be C square n inverse m power minus 2 for epsilon naught. So this is the simple way in order to know the units. This is the easy way to derive a unit for a constant. We don't require to memorize the units of these kind of dimensional constants. So it is very easy for us to utilize the equation from which it has been arrived and find out its unit. K is also a constant, since 4 pi epsilon naught, all the three components are going to be constant. So I can just substitute epsilon naught's value here and derive what is K. So 4 into pi is 3.14 into epsilon naught is nothing but 8.854 into 10 to the power of minus 12. So on the whole, when you divide and multiply it, you will be getting 9 into 10 power 9 on the whole. And the unit is going to be, since pi is not going to have any unit and 4 is a constant, 8.854 into 10 power minus 12, which is epsilon naught, only going to possess the unit. So if this unit is in denominator, if it is coming to numerator, you will be having n m square c power minus 2. So this is nothing but the value of K. So if I have two charges which are displaced by a distance of 1 meter, and if the magnitude of these two charges are 1 coulomb, then the force experienced between the two charges is going to be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. Q1 is 1, Q2 is 1, and R is going to be 1. So on the whole, I'll get 9 into 10 power 9 Newton. So from this, I can give the definition for 1 coulomb. So from this, I can say that definition for 1 coulomb as that the amount of charge that repels an equal and similar charge with a force of 9 into 10 power 9 Newton when placed in vacuum at a distance of 1 meter from it. The next topic is Coulomb's law in vector form. We know pretty well that the force is going to be a vector quantity. So we have to define the Coulomb's law in vector form. Let's take the same setup. Let me have Q1 and Q2 separated by a distance of R. Now, two charges are going to experience the forces. Suppose if I want to know what is the force experienced on Q1 due to Q2, then I can say that this is going to be F12. So why this direction is given is, you can see these two charges are considered to be positive. So when there is positive charges, obviously there will be an repulsive force where Q1 is going to experience a force in this direction because of the charge Q2. Similarly, this Q2 is going to experience a charge F21 vector in the opposite direction. So F21 is nothing but force on Q2 due to Q1. Likewise, F12 is nothing but force on Q1 due to Q2. Obviously, their displacement vectors are going to be in opposite directions again. So their displacement vectors are given in this direction. This is going to be R12 cap, and this is going to be R21 cap. So you can see here, the force on charge Q2 due to Q1 can be given as F21 vector is equal to K Q1 Q2 whole divided by R square into R12 cap. Likewise, F12 vector can also be given as K Q1 Q2 whole divided by R square R21 cap. You can see here, this is given with respect to 2, 1, and the displacement is with respect to 1, 2. Why? Because as this charge moves, the displacement with respect to Q2 is going to vary. That is why they are giving it as R12. Likewise, if this charge is going to move, then the displacement is going to be with respect to Q1. So there is an opposite notation of the displacement with respect to their forces. And we can also say R21 and R12 cap is vectors are called as unit vectors. So generally the unit vectors are given as R12, say for example, R12 cap can be written as R12 vector whole divided by R, right? Because the above is going to be the vector and below it is going to be an modulus of vector, which is going to be unit. So these unit vectors are going to only give the directions for the entire equation and not going to contribute with respect to the magnitudes. This is, we have found out it for repulsive force. Suppose if the same case occurs for an attractive force, which means for unlike charges, then the same conditions can be rearranged as like this. So this is going to be F12 vector and this is going to be F21 vector, right? Because this is going to experience an attractive force. So the displacements are also going to be with respect to their same quantities, in which this is going to be positive, this is going to be negative. So on the whole, we can arrive with the conditions as such. R12 cap can be equated as minus R21 cap because of their opposite directions. Likewise, F12 vector can be equated as minus F21 vector. So from these equations, can we say that it obeys Newton's third law, which is nothing but for every action there is going to be an equal and opposite reaction. So this negative symbol represents the same. Coulombian force obeys Newton's third law. And also, since these forces are with respect to the centers, right? So if it is either repulsive, it is going to be moving away with respect to the center of these line joining the four charges. Likewise, if it is going to be attractive, it is going to move towards the center of the line joining these two charges. So on the whole, can we say this Coulombian force as central forces? So Coulombian force is central force. So this is all about the Coulomb's law in vector form. So we have seen the Coulomb's law and its vector form. Now, there are some of the limitations to be addressed with respect to this Coulomb's law. So the limitations of Coulomb's law. Number one, basically when we acquire to this Coulomb's law, the charges should be at rest. So this is not applicable for the charges when it is under motion. The electric charges must be at rest. And these electric charges should be point sized or point charges. The distance between the charges should be very high, greater than that of the magnitude of the charge, which means we say these Coulombic forces is only applicable to the point charges. So the electric charges must be point charges. And the separation between the charges should be greater than that of the size of the nucleus of an atom. Because for distances which is less than 10 power minus 15 meters, the strong nuclear forces dominates over the electrostatic force. So the distance of separation should be greater than that of the size of the nucleus. Now we are entering into dielectric constant. This dielectric constant can otherwise be called as relative permittivity. The name itself suggests that we are going to deal with something called as permittivity. So permittivity is nothing but the permission given by that particular medium for the forces to get experience between the charges. In simple words, according to the definition of permittivity, there's nothing but a property of a medium which determines the electric force between the two charges situated in that medium, which means the property of a medium which is going to allow the forces to get experience between the charges. That is what is permittivity of a medium. Now, coming to relative permittivity's equation, so we have to derive that. You know, the force experienced between two point charges in vacuum as, according to Coulomb's law, is going to be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 by r square if they are separated between a distance of r. This is going to be the condition in vacuum. Suppose if I keep these two charges in some other medium, say for example its permittivity is given as epsilon. So epsilon is nothing but permittivity of a medium. Then the force experienced by the charges in that medium, say F medium, is given as 1 by 4 pi epsilon q1 q2 by r square. So if I want to know what is the relative permittivity, I have to take the ratios between these two. So F vacuum by F medium can be equated as 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 by r square whole divided by 1 by 4 pi epsilon q1 q2 by r square. Now cancelling the common terms, we'll end up with 1 by epsilon naught by 1 by epsilon, which can be written as epsilon by epsilon naught, which is nothing but the relative permittivity epsilon r. So the relative permittivity can be given as the ratio between the force experienced between the point charges in a vacuum to that of medium, or otherwise the permittivity of a medium to that of permittivity of free space. So this is nothing but the relative permittivity. Sometimes this relative permittivity is given as kappa, which is otherwise called as dielectric constant. So we can derive the dielectric constant with respect to this ratio. Or even we can find out the force in a particular medium if the dielectric constant is given with the help of this equation. Basically, we have certain constants for this, constant values for this type of dielectrics. Say, for example, dielectric constant of vacuum is always given as 1. Dielectric constant of air, it is slightly more than 1. Dielectric constant of water is given as 80. These are all some of the dielectric constants values which we have to know.